thinking through how might we get this idea that all students across all states should be learning to the same high standards. Everyone agreed with that. The moment we threw a name to that, people threw darts. And that happens every single day in our nation's school systems. The moment we named what we were looking to do, and we named it STAT, Students and Teachers Accessing Tomorrow, the moment we named that, the darts started to fly. The good thing is that we had already added the communications conversion, and we didn't just focus on communicating with our external community, because we knew that in our community, 60% of the residents in our school system, they don't have school-age kids, but they support us through taxes, right? That is the average when you look at all school systems across the country. 50 to 60% of the residents don't have school-age children. But we also knew we have 112,000 students, and we have 21,000 employees. How do we make sure they understand fully what it is we're trying to do from an equity lens so they understand how they can leverage the message for us through our own communications conversion? If you look at our website, we rebranded our website totally back in the 13-14 school year. We looked at our data analytics and figured out where people were going the most. What was the information they needed to have right, ready on their fingertips so we can put that on the front page. These were things that we know, and you go to our website, you look under the What's Happening section. This is our version of Mythbusters. As people would say, it's going to cost $200 million a year. We could quickly put on What's Happening, how much the real budget was going to cost. And we were able to keep people updated in real time. And we recognized the fact that as we're now in year 4 of this work, the communications conversion was probably the most important conversion we could have had outside of our curriculum conversion. But we also knew that the second part of that theory of action, which is the most exciting part to me, is how do we leverage technology in order to give our students access to learning a second language as early as 4th grade. And folks said, why did you choose 4th grade? Why didn't you go earlier? I would have loved to go down to pre-K and kinder. All of us would love to do that. But let's understand that there is a real teacher shortage in our country as well, too. And how do you sustain it when you understand that you don't want to just leverage teachers, because teachers are the most important people, but how do you leverage technology in order to be able to do it, too? How do you take the research that's out there on blended learning and make that work for a 4th and 5th grader in our classrooms? So right now, we have 40 elementary schools where students are learning Spanish instruction over the course of 4th and 5th grade. About half of those students are going into 6th grade taking Spanish 2. The other half are taking Spanish 1. And they're changing the model of how they learn Spanish instruction. And folks said, why did you focus only on Spanish? If you look at the current research out of the Center for Applied Linguistics, if kids can understand English, Mandarin, and Spanish, by the year 2020, they're going to be able to participate in 90% of the world's economy. So if that's the case, we need to make sure that students are proficient before they leave middle school in understanding Spanish instruction and Spanish language. And not just understanding it from the way we learned it, because I took about 6 years of French, and I can't tell you anything in French. But I can tell you how to conjugate a verb in French, though. But in terms of the proficiency model that we want kids to know and be able to do now, to learn and appreciate, it's understanding that they need to be able to interact, to appreciate not only the diversity in the culture, but also be able to understand and appreciate how to speak the language with other folks as well, too. So next year, we're going to expand to about 55 schools. So this understanding now is only half of our elementary schools. This is where the famous quote that Steve Webb, who's the superintendent of Vancouver, Washington Public Schools, will tell me, we had to start slow in order to go fast on this. Because I would love for this to be in every single elementary school right now. But I understand if you want to look at sustainability in hiring, sustainability in making sure folks are comfortable with the blended learning environment at the elementary level, but also understanding the massive shift that's going to happen when you have 6th graders going into middle school taking Spanish 2. And what does this look like at the high school level when you have a 9th grader who's already taking AP Spanish? Or in some cases, they're taking a 3rd language altogether. But we know that when the class of 2024 graduates, we're going to have our first group of students who are going to graduate bilingual. We have that now, but we want to make sure that all things are possible with the class of 2024. So at the end of the day, folks will say, okay, you're doing a lot of work. How is this all happening? And I will tell you, we're not perfect, and we are probably well on our way, but we're nowhere near where we want to be. It's this whole idea that organizational culture will drive the results of any organization. And I know we're focusing on education today, but this is any organization. I started out my career when I was in college at Capital One as a frontline supervisor. And what I quickly learned was that the culture of the organization drove whether we were going to meet our department goals or not. It wasn't about having a quota for folks and having an individual quota that we wanted people to meet. This was about the team quota. And how does everyone understand that all of us together really equates and makes up the team? And so if you go to our website, you'll see a lot of work around Team BCPS. You see this at the bottom of my deck here. If you Google Baltimore County Public Schools, the first thing you'll see is this whole logo around Team BCPS. Many of you who are in this room who are thought providers and service providers with us, you participated in a Team BCPS Day where we actually paint the entire town blue. Because it's this whole idea that culture unites us. That's this culture of risk-taking and innovation. And we don't really care about the title of anyone in the organization. We have 21,000 people who work with us. We have over 800,000 residents who work with us every single day. But we want to make sure that folks understand that we're doing the work we're doing because we're building systems of support around each other. And that's the managing of culture that every leader in our school system is doing, not just the superintendent, but our Board of Ed, but also down to our student leaders. And we were very, very fortunate that last week we hosted the League of Innovative Schools. And we had about 250 folks come to Baltimore. We did it in Baltimore City where folks stayed. And we actually had people branch out into Baltimore County and visit about 8 of our schools. They saw STAT in action. They saw our world language acquisition in action. They saw the work we were doing around blended learning and making sure that we can not just get kids to recover credit, but also to ascertain and obtain new credit. But the last part, they saw the work that we're doing around innovative libraries and making sure that we build library spaces that are student commons, that are almost maker spaces in nature, where students are actually owning the library and they know who the library media specialist is, because the library media specialist is as much about the school culture as the classroom teacher. And so we were very fortunate that the feedback that we got was not necessarily about the programs and the innovations and initiatives they saw, but it was this whole idea that wherever you went, everyone understood the importance of the district culture. And so as we move our work forward, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share some of the things that we're doing in our school system, but I think the biggest success that we can say we've had since 2012 is really understanding the importance of building a systemic culture that everyone is important, and that's the empowerment that's behind Team BCPS.